All right. Oh, good. And then the last one. Hapa ni timu yangu la ngicabanga ukuthi izona basikhulumile kodwa ngizocela nje baphinde basukume sisebenza nokubona ukuthi unkosikazi wami Mawulinga ngikwenze Big please stand. And there's Tobani also. So these are the four people that we work with pertaining in Bonakude Farm. I acknowledge them because what I'm presenting here is the result of their labor, the result of their thought, and the result of their images. So Bonakude Farm is a small farm outside of the town of Richmond in KZN here. It's about an hour and a half away from here. We founded Bonakude in 2020. The idea when we started was to focus on producing food for us, for our house. To make sure that all the things that we heard this morning about providing nutritious food for the house, a gut, a stomach that he was talking about, that we're able to control a bit of it. Prior to that, I've been working as a researcher at the University of Mvuselelo, where I was doing research on indigenous foods and trying to understand the life and times of small-scale farmers in KZN. And the question that the farmers always posed to me was, are you farming also? And my answer was, no, I come from a generation of small-scale farmers, subsistence farmers. I know a little bit about agriculture, but I don't go into myself. So eventually in 2019, we decided to start Bonakude. And Bonakude, the name in Zulu, Bona, Vulamesh, Bona, Ud, yeah, Ud, far, yeah, Bonakude, far into the future and far into the past. So that's what we're trying to do. So what we are hearing today, this morning, what we heard this morning, really resonates with us because this is exactly what we're trying to do, to draw from our history, but going forward, because there is no return, you can't go back to a romantic past. It doesn't exist anymore. What we have is today and tomorrow, but we can use the lessons of history to draw from. Yeah, so we wanted today, we were asked to talk about markets. So the story is about markets and how we deal with the market question. As has become clear this morning from the Mvuselelo case and also from Spears' beautiful presentation this morning, the economy is stacked against us. The Mvuselelo case this morning mentions the word, a word that I really liked, the word about equation, the equation, about scales. The scales are really stacked against us. So it is upon us, it is incumbent upon us as farmers and as communities to tip the scale in our favor. Only we can do it. The system, or as Peter Tosh called it, the shit system. The system does not, it's not interested at all to work with people like us to change our lives because it serves the system when we are beggars. Uma sinxiba sizinxeleba sicela sihambe sikhangeza sikhamisa kuyayisiza lokho isystem ifuna amamiliyoni abantu abamnyama abanxibayo abacilayo bahluphekayo. So what we are trying to do at Bonakude is to infuse energy and air in the small community of Pateni. It's a beautiful place. It's amazing. And now as an older person, I wonder why I left. Because I left Pateni many years ago to pursue life in the city. These two beautiful people here are talking about how black people were compelled to leave their homes in order to work in the city. I was one of those people. And then in 2019, Linda and I decided, no, actually we have been fools for so long by living in the city, paying rent, paying rate, swiping, locking, all of those things that people do in the city, that life was a little more manageable. National Geographic kind of stuff is where we live. So that's the morning mist of our area. This is not a picture from that you take like once in 5 years. This happens like every week. Wake up one morning, it looks like this. Beautiful, beautiful place. A friend of ours came in to visit, and then she said, she's from overseas. She says, now I understand the pattern after looking at this woman. This is why you people were removed from the land, because this land is just so beautiful. So Pateni, the picture I wanted to show, and they took it out. I know Bill Gates took it out. He knew I was going to say something controversial. So the picture of Pateni that I wanted to show was a picture showing how close the houses are clustered together. Izindlu zisondelene. Abangani bethaseni bafike lapha bake babona. Imizi yakhelene yasondelana. The houses are, we have plots that are about 50 meters by 50 meters, right next to each other. There are about 500 households in the whole of Pateni, plus or minus 3,000 people who live there. And the local planning that occurred in the 1950s and 60s to produce what is now called Pateni was the result of an apartheid law called a betterment law. It was a whole system of regulating rural areas where they created villages such as Pateni from scratch. So my family would have been moved at least 3 times, forcibly, from the fertile Mkomazi Valley in the 1940s and 50s. And a few decades later, they were removed again for the second time from Ntubeni, where my father grew up, and then for the third time from Mkobeni. In 1972, they were located to Pateni when Pateni was becoming a bigger village. So the way the houses are organized is because of the apartheid law that forced people to live there. There is not a lot of land. We are neighbors with many white farmers. One of the largest farmers owns 3,000 hectares of land right around us. Next door to us, on the main road, the R56 that connects Richmond and Pietermaritzburg, there is a farmer who has about 800 hectares. And 2 years ago, when I chatted with him, he was growing 1.5 million cabbages. So the local market of agriculture is controlled by these large entities. And then there are hundreds of us who are farming on these matchbox size plots where we try to produce food. So that's the context I wanted to present so that you understand the kind of place we are functioning in. So Bonakude then is our vision of trying to produce food for ourselves. So the idea is we need to control our food system. I was a student of one famous philosopher, teacher, and a culturalist called Gogo. And one of the many questions that she left me with, gifted me with, was this question. How can you claim to be free when you are not in charge of your plate? How can you claim to be free as a black person in South Africa at the time, I think this was like in the mid-2010s when I was talking with them. How are you free when you do not know, you have no power, you have no control over the food that is on your plate? So that's why we started Bonakude to win a little bit of control of what goes into our stomachs and what goes into the stomachs of our children. So growing vegetables for domestic consumption. But it soon became clear to us that this kind of food sovereignty that we're trying to produce for us in the Ngcoya household was not possible unless you also generated food sovereignty for the community. No small-scale farmer will do it alone. It became clear to us because we are really dependent on other people right next to you. So we then started selling vegetables to other farmers, to other friends of ours who were living in the city because they heard we were producing food. And the demand for our vegetables became bigger and bigger, so we got more land. Again, we're in the traditional area, so we can just get land. It's a beauty. So we got more land, and so on the left there is a slope. We farm on a slope. Those of you who have visited know the slope where we farm. On the left is the slope when we started in 2019, and on the right is the same slope when we've been working on the land. So that's where we are. That's where we were working. So that's what it looks like from the distance. We've made beds on the slope. We really are working against terrain, working with nature, but against the terrain at the same time in order to produce vegetables. Because of the reason that I stated earlier on, that you can't do this alone, there was a need to train other people to work with other people in the community to make sure that we had what we call community sovereignty of food. It's not easy, but it's part of our vision to make sure that Pateni is a place that produces food that is known nationally and internationally as producing amazing food. So we started what we call ilima. Ilima is an indigenous system of working together to rotate work among each other for no pay, except for the pleasure of supporting your neighbors with the expectation that when your turn comes, people will also show up. Yeah? So our ilima then, we have started a group, Begi Tobani is part of it, and a few other farmers over the last few years, where every Wednesday the culture was we rotate work for 2 hours. We bring labor, resources, knowledge, we share knowledge and experience together on different plots every Wednesday is the idea. So as you can see there, we're working at Dani's property, I think this was property. So exchanging labor, exchanging ideas in order to support one another to make sure that we can produce the food. Part of Ilima, it's not just labor, it's also knowledge sharing. When we leave from this workshop, next week we will meet with the farmers who are part of our network to report back on what we learned here, to share that knowledge and to share that experience. So that's what we do. Here, Bailey and Pilani had gone to a Biowatch workshop on biofertilizers, and they were coming back to share with us what it was they had learned about how to make your own fertilizers or your own manures, etc. So that was the workshop that we had. But since today the theme is about markets, I'll spend a lot more time talking about markets and about the challenges of what we're trying to do as far as marketing is concerned. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. So as part of Ilima, we also share markets. So the idea is that if we are able to identify a market that requires vegetables that are produced by us, we as a group need to be able to make sure we keep that market and we serve that market as well as we can. So part of our work then is working with our farmers who are part of INEMA to make sure that we are able to secure markets. Because the struggles of small-scale farmers, as you heard this morning, it's if you don't have a market and you are producing vegetables and your vegetables are rotting in the field, then there's no point you're wasting your time. So to unlock the question of marketing, to answer the question of marketing is really important. So how we started then was, of course, we were selling to our friends in the city of Durban. We started with INEMA, we did a box scheme. If you can go to the next picture. So we had a box scheme where every 2 weeks we were distributing boxes, delivering boxes to Durban. The veg box would contain whatever it was we were producing at the time. So it would have like 10 to 12, 13 items, and our customers would receive the box from us, collecting from the various contributors to the box in the farming community of So we started with the box, and then the box went on for a period of 4 years when we were creating the box. So every 2 weeks we were collecting vegetables from our contributing farmers, using our van to deliver to the customers, directly to the customers in Durban. There was a collection point at various restaurants in the city of Durban where people would come and collect their vegetables, the box. It ranged from 180 rands. The last time we did it was up to 200 rands a box. So we would be doing this every 2 weeks, collecting from our farmers and delivering to Durban. So that was one. We also tried a number of markets, pop-up shops. We've been selling vegetables in pop-up shops. We tried all kinds of markets on the road, with the road store that we tried. But eventually the box we had to change because the box became unmanageable. The administrative demand of the box was quite heavy. It was also really difficult because the customers then start expressing various preferences. Mina ngifuna ubhatata 1 kg lesonto, ngasuke ngizawufuna 2 kg, hayi angikuthanda ubhatata, ngithanda amadumbe, hayi amadumbe ngiwathanda ngicela ngifakele kakhulu mina ispinach. So it became a little bit more difficult. So we are now collaborating with an online store, Green Heart Organics. Donna is going to be here today to talk about her store. So we're partnering with her to work on the box. So these are some of the farmers. We're also showing some of the projects of some of the farmers that are contributing to the box. This is Baby's Farm. This one was Tubani's. Go to the next one. This is a new member of our INEMA, the Togoza Cooperative, which is under my mother's management. So those are her plots there. She also contributes the vegetables to our box. You can go to the next one, please. So this was one of the local pop-up shops that we participated in. Yeah, so this is the picture of the box I wanted to do. So yeah, so that's what the box would look like. And it had a lot of marketing. You have to really market the box, all the flyers that you produce, the WhatsApp messages, the Instagram messages, let people know when the box is coming, how the box is coming. It was a lot of work. Largely due to Linda's excellence. We were able to keep it up for a long time. But an important part of the box was educating the consumer. Because you are now putting things there that people are not familiar with. You are putting amadumbe, and these middle class white people in the city don't know what amadumbe are. So you have to educate them about, okay, how do you cook this thing? How long do you cook it? Why is it good, etc., etc. So all these flyers that Linda was making to accompany the box and to accompany the work of the box so people can actually understand what it is that they are busy buying. So this is Green Heart Organics. Now we partner with Green Heart Organics. There is a website. You simply just go on the website and click on the website and you can order. They deliver now to your door. You can pick and choose whatever you want instead of getting a box that has items that you might not necessarily like. So the idea, working with Donna, who has a wide network, a much wider network than we do, all over the Midlands, etc. So she'll talk more about Green Heart Organics and how she does it. So that's just an idea of how she sources from local farmers all over the place, and then she sells to her customers directly. Some of you who've bought from Green Heart Organics might be able to share your experience with the system and if it works. But for us, it works quite fine because we just get an order from her. Peggy manages the orders, and we deliver every Tuesday to her in Durban, and she distributes. So it's working quite well for us at the moment, and we just need to make sure that this market continues as it is. All right. But what I really want to talk about, though, is how we are trying to work, the struggles of trying to develop a market in Pateni itself. So the critique of agroecology or of food sovereignty, of the movements that we work with, is that sometimes the products that we make are geared towards the middle classes. We produce things that are eaten and consumed by people who have more money, who are paler in skin, etc., etc. So the critique is often that we don't do well with our own local markets. So we are taking that on by trying to now experiment with a market in Pateni itself. So that's what I want to talk about because I think it applies to a lot of us. When Sisis Pure was talking about chefs, I was really intrigued because I can see how we can do the same thing. It's really beautiful. But I know that for a lot of us, we don't know a lot of chefs. So if you don't know chefs, here's another option that we think we can work with, that we can try to cultivate. We are still at the beginning of this local Pateni market. So I'm just reporting about work of a few months. We are still experimenting and trying to make sure that it actually works. So what we did first was we established at the local taxi rank. We simply just set up that gazebo and put that signage and decided that we would put vegetables there every Friday. We would be there between 9 and 12. So people would know that we are there. We did it for a few weeks, but we had to stop because Pateni is a biggish village. So if you are in a stationary place, it's difficult for people to walk a kilometer, 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers to the store to buy vegetables, and we are only selling vegetables. So we soon realized that it was not a great idea because the movement was just not there, That's why there are malls, by the way, yeah? That's why there are malls, that's why there are supermarkets, because the people go there and there are hundreds or thousands of them who are shopping there, so you always have customers. In this case, you don't have customers. It's on a Friday, it's a hot day. There's only one person coming every hour or so. It was just not working. So with consultation with our team, we decided maybe what we need to be doing is not a physical stationary market, but a mobile market. So what we do now is we use a van every Friday. Starting at 9 o'clock, the van has a number of stops along the route, the main route where the taxis also go. So the van goes every Friday. There is a stop, 9 o'clock we are here, 9:30 we are here, 10 o'clock we are here, just circulating the village itself, announcing to people that we have this market, here are your vegetables, come and buy. We are in it for about a month as we speak. It's much better than the stationary store at the taxi rank because people are now getting the sense that there are vegetables available on Fridays at this time. This van is going to be there. So the key lesson that we've learned is that you need to be consistent. People need to know that they shouldn't be buying vegetables at Spar or at Pick and Pay the day before because you're going to be there on Friday. So that idea of consistency, drumming it into people's heads that this venue is going to be there this Friday at this time, this seems to be working. So we're going to continue with the van, and our big hope is that over time, we're not only going to do Pateni, because the Richmond municipality has over 70,000 people in the whole of the municipality, some 6 villages the size of Pateni. So we think that over time, we can do this every day, targeting each of the villages that form the municipality. There is a market there. We've done some calculations, just back of the envelope types of calculations. Pateni has about 500 households, I said. If you assume that in each household, a month, there is 2,000 rands that comes in through social grants, through remittances. So you multiply 2,000 by 500. It's 1 million rands every month that's in Pateni. 1 million. Every month. It's way more than that, but that's just a low estimate. If you're just talking about grants alone, 2,000 rands per household, 500 households, that's 1 million rands a month, that is in Pateni. 1 million. So we're talking about scales earlier on, about tipping the scale. How much of the economy, how much of this money are we able to retain in Pateni is one of my most troubling questions. If you have 1 million coming in every month, so per year there's 12 million rands that comes into Pateni. That's a low estimate. Now, if people are buying at Spar, buying at Boxer, buying at Pick and Pay, the bakery delivers bread every day, 20 rands a loaf a day, 500 households, if you assume that each household buys 1 loaf of bread per day, 500 loaves per day at 20 rands each, 10,000 rands per day that gets spent on bread to a company that is outside of Pateni. So our large dream is, in the long run, we should be baking our own bread locally. 10,000 rands staying in Pateni every day. It's a lot of money. So we have a lot of power in our control to actually do something with the local economy. So that's the space that we are now occupying, to think about how we can keep more of the money that we shed every month, how we can keep more of it here so that there are jobs that we are creating ourselves. We are not blaming the white companies, we are not blaming white people, we are not blaming history for our own predicament when we are complicit in our own immiseration by spending money. That the little money that we have, we also spend and give it to other people who are outside. So the idea with the mobile store is it's the beginnings of really strengthening the local market, making our people think about what they eat and where it comes from, and how much money we are able to keep in the local economy in Pateni. This is a picture of I happened to just run into this guy in Durban, Mr. Maharaj. He says, I stopped and I chatted with him. He says he's been doing this for 30 years. It was a business that his father started, and he now continues it. He drives around Durban. He says to me, goes down South Coast, drives up to Glenwood, Glenmore, Overport, all the way up to Durban North. He has his stops, and he's been doing it for 30 years. And I could see the amount of produce that's on that truck. It's a lot of money that he makes every day. And it's where we are dreaming. We're dreaming of going here, having a truck this size that can circulate, that can do the circuit of the whole Richmond municipality to sell whatever ware we have locally, so that we keep more of our own money. Yeah, that's our story. Oh, there was just one point that Peggy raised the other day that I think is important for us to just share, where Peggy was saying that you would think that month end would be a good day for our mobile store. It is not. Yeah, it was quite surprising because we looked at the receipts and like, oh, it's month end. We thought there would be a lot of money. There wasn't. Why? Because when people have money, they are going to town. Yeah, spending the 40 rands to go to town, back and there and back for 40 rands. They have money to go to town to buy things. When they go to town, they are buying meat, amapeks, lawa athengwa abantu, all these kinds of things that they can buy. They come back, it's not time for vegetables. Sorry, they were saying no, sorry. It's not time for vegetables. So that was quite surprising to me. I didn't expect that, but yeah, that's some of the discoveries that we've encountered.